Hey everybody! Today, Rahdo talks through Estrella Drive, which is the latest chapter in the Time Story saga, and I'm going to spend a few minutes today, relatively spoiler-free, giving you an idea of what this new storyline expansion has to offer and how it differs from what has come before. And now, before I get going, as always with these, I'm going to try and do it without actually giving away any of the big story beats or even any of the small story beats, but I have to show you a little bit just to give you a taste of what the game is like. And so what we're going to do is I am going to basically reveal the first 45 to 60 seconds of the game. Basically, the intro briefing that you get. That'll let you get an idea of what the art looks like and kind of what the new gameplay mechanisms are, while leaving the story and the mystery completely open for you to discover on your own with no spoilers. Okay, there's one other thing I should say before we get going on this. As a warning, it's right here on the box. This is for mature audiences only. And honestly, this box does not take that lightly. There has been some dark, heavy, violent stuff in several of the previous Time Stories adventures, but this one, I think, really takes it to another level. And the important thing is, I'll talk about this in final thoughts as well. When they say mature, normally, when a game or a movie or a comic book or whatever says it's for mature audiences only, often that means it's for immature audiences because it's just trying to be edgy or do stuff for shock value, or to get a laugh or something like that. This earns the mature rating because the mature content in this is really... It's kind of soft. It's somber. It's there is some extreme violence. There is some minor nudity. There is copious drug use in this game because of the setting, which is 1982. Here we are at the beginning of the 80s. All the ghosts of the past that can't rest easy unveil the dark secrets of the California showbiz industry. I'm going to say right now, that includes drug use. Recreational drug use that you can be a part of, you can even benefit from. So for that reason alone, this game gets a mature audience rating. I mean, heck, I worked in the video game industry for years. Drug use, recreational drug use, that's a big, big no-no. But there's also some more stuff. Now, I'll talk about the particulars of what it shows near the end of this. I'll show you some of the card art that gives you an idea of what the nudity looks like, so you can decide for yourself whether it's too much for you and yours. Spoiler alert, it's really minor. The nudity is the least of this. It's basically PG-13 stuff. But anyway, we're going to talk about all that in a bit. But first of all, let's open up at the Time headquarters where good old Bob is here, and there's a party going on. Hey, there's some confetti. Now, I'm not even going to bother reading this stuff. If you want, you can pause and read the intro, or not if you want to keep that for yourself. But it's Bob. He says Bob-type things like he always does. Go ahead and pause it if you like. And we continue on our merry way. And, hey, he's got some more Bobby-type things to say. I don't think he'd care for me calling him Bobby if you are at all familiar with the game. He's a very serious man. All right, then we continue on. Oh, it's Laura. She's going to give you more background story about what was going on back in 1982. Hopefully you can read that. And then, hey, let's actually get to the heart. There we go. So a little bit more story stuff. And now let's get to the heart of it. Your receptacles have 3 different stats: social skills, combat, dexterity. In all honesty, the gameplay of this particular adventure is the most bare bones basic. They don't really change up anything that you haven't seen in any of the adventures. There's not like, oh my God, wow, that completely turns the whole thing on its head. These are really standard tests you have to do. Break-in type stuff, talking to people, getting them on your side, or the occasional fight. Pretty straightforward business. But let's see. Oh, and then, okay, Laura continues with some more story stuff. There you go, if you want to pause it. But it introduces the notion of time fissures. Sometimes when you find a card, you'll see this icon, and it'll make you lose 1 time, which can be kind of annoying. And the interesting thing about these, if you were to imagine, picture a movie in your head where there's like kind of one of those moments where, it's kind of like a scratched needle and the whole frame jumps and it like flashes back and forth between different images and it's all over in like a half a second. You're like, what did I just see? Bah! It was like, a vision of something, but you couldn't quite make it out. That's what these time fissures are. They pop up every once in a while, and there is a storyline element to it that you discover over the course of the game. But in terms of gameplay, they mean you lose a little bit of time every time you run into one of those time fissures. That's really about the only significantly new element of the game is the time fissures. Then continuing on, hey, just the normal type of setup stuff that you would want to do, including setting up the Seance deck. If I can reach it, there's a Seance deck in Codex 1. It tells you to read this so you know what's going on. Alrighty, so there's some cards under here which you'll have access to under certain circumstances if you read that. And then finally the last card, hey, get out there. Everybody be safe. Do your time story type stuff. Transforming. And then we go on ahead and jump into the hall. Right, so let's go on ahead and look around a little bit more. Here, there's the Seance in Codex 1. Here is the location we're hanging out at. There at the beginning, there's a hall, a library, a kitchen, and a living room. Although if you played Time Stories, you know that's not going to be it. Other stuff is going to open up for us to explore over the course of the game. This is just the beginning. And we start out here in the hall. And now we'll get into a little bit of spoiler. I mean, I don't really consider the briefing a spoiler, but I'm going to show you just what the hall looks like, so you can get an idea for what the art style is, because, of course, for every one of these, they always get new artists. So, hey, we're in the hall. Here's the story if you want to read it. I'm not going to read it to you. And you can see it's this kind of handwritten note sort of thing. And in the hall itself, we find the butler. Did the butler do it? Is it as simple as that? And, oops, my hall's a little bit out of order. There's D, and there is E. Okay, so I'm not flipping any of these. This is just, like I said, to give you an idea of what the game looks like. And, there's a little dark corner over here in Hall E. For Hall E, there's a staircase you could climb up. There's a guy to talk to. There's some more stuff. And you're off to the races. Talk to the butler if you want. Go upstairs, go into the back. Do whatever you're going to do and start exploring and uncovering the mystery. But who are you in this game? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Several different characters you can choose from. There is, you can't be the butler, but you can be the dishonest maid, Maggie Rossiter, who is particularly good if you're going to do a search action, which is a pretty common thing you do as you travel around here. You're searching for stuff, trying to uncover clues in this mansion, this spooky mansion, and she gets to roll an extra die whenever she searches, because of course she knows she's the dishonest maid. We've also got Dave Kahan, who is a wannabe action hero actor. It looks kind of like, Don Johnson from Miami Vice era stuff. I guess he's an action actor because he's ready to fight. He's also incredibly charming. I think he's the most charming character with a 3. Not very good with dexterity. And here's a little bit of his backstory. If you want, I guess it's kind of his resume coming right off the typewriter. Remember typewriters? And then we've got a gigolo. Just a gigolo, good old Scott Brody. Hey there, male gigolo. Also, actually, I misspoke. He's also incredibly charming. Not very good in a fight, though. But if he's trying to talk to the ladies, he does very, very well. This guy is smooth as silk. My life will never be the same after this kiss, nor will yours, he says. Then, now this is an interesting one. This is Harvey Spector. He is a ghost hunter, which means he doesn't have very good stats at all. He's okay, but not particularly great anything. But the big thing is, remember I was talking about those time fissures? If he ever stumbles across a time fissure, you don't lose time, which is very cool. Although the interesting thing is, when you have those kind of weird flashes of you don't know what's happening in his time fissure. If he doesn't encounter it, everybody loses time. If he encounters it, it starts building up and weighing heavily on him. And if he encounters 3 time fissures, hey, you save 3 time, but he gets hurt because this affects him, because he's the real deal. He's not just some Hollywood wannabe. He is an actual ghost hunter, and so he responds to these time fissures. Interesting, and there's interesting gameplay with him, because if you suspect that looks kind of like a spooky area, let's send Harvey in, because it'll be a time fissure. And he's like, I don't want to go. But it's kind of fun that way. Then you've got Lassie Acid, who is a badass punk. By the way, I should say, there is a little bit of salty language in the game. A few S words. I think there's one F word. Obviously ass pops up a few times. Bitch turns up a few times. So that's something to bear in mind. That's part of the mature. Anyway, for her, nothing special. She doesn't want to talk to anybody, but she is very dexterous and ready to fight if you need to. And then finally, last character, we've got Nilda Airy, the tabloid reporter. Okay, and her stats are, well, they're pretty good for, she's a reporter. Of course, she's going to be good at talking to people. But the interesting thing is, she starts with item 25, which are her reporter's notes. Which only, you don't get to read these unless you bring in Nilda. Right, so those are the characters. We find ourselves in the hall and we start exploring the mansion and figure out what's up with this seance and all that. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is this, like some previous ones, is a double-decker. I've set up, here is the starter deck, all the different rooms that we can go through. The game comes with a mystery deck. Also for mature audiences, do not open this until you're told to do so. You may remember this from, oh gosh, I think the first time they did it was in the fantasy one, the Prophecy of Dragons. So anyway, so you've got another one of these, hey, you don't get to find out what's in here until later, and there's a little thing on the back of here so as not to confuse you if you spotted something early. Oh, by the way, this did confuse the heck out of us, so I'm going to show you. On the back of the main deck, there's this card, and it's weird. If you look at it, it looks like this is just something that was supposed to prevent you from seeing accidentally a real Gary Explorer, and it's just kind of a joke. Hey, look, it's Bob in his younger days, and there's even a QR code. I don't know if you could actually try to scan this off of YouTube, but you can go check it out if you want and learn a little bit about Bob when he was a bit more groovy. The weird thing about this was, as we were playing the game, as we were searching, we got to the location, we came across, and we're like, wait. Does this have something to do with the adventure? Are we supposed to do something with this? And no, it has absolutely nothing to do with the adventure. It really kind of threw us for a loop a little bit. Is Bob trying to contact us? This is just kind of a little joke gag, but because of where it is in the deck, you might come across it when you're looking at the last thing here and think, oh, that's something I have to do, but it's not. Just wanted you to avoid the confusion of that. So anyway, there's a deck, but the mystery deck, as you can see, is about 30% more. So there's a lot of mystery events that happen as well. Of course, I'm not going to talk about that at all because that would be a huge spoiler. But now, the last thing I'm going to do is, as you're exploring around, like I said, there's a little bit of mature content. There's some mature language, very little, but it is there for people who are bothered by it. Of course, not everybody's going to see it because not everybody sees all cards. Only certain people will see somebody saying the F word or the S word, which I feel silly doing it like that, but I'm trying to keep my show clean, everybody. But here's where the show is not clean. Like I mentioned, there is a tiny bit of nudity, a fair bit of recreational drug use. It's the 80s. It's Hollywood. Let me show you the first one. You will occasionally get the opportunity to stumble across cocaine. And you can use it to curry favor with other characters. You can use it yourself. And if you do, it will give you certain benefits, particularly in combat, because you'll get all jazzed up on cocaine. So it's an item that you can use for different things. So cocaine use, and not only cocaine use, but other drugs are present in this game. So that's something you got to know going in. What else do we got? There is some extreme violence. Now, this is just going to show you that somebody had their head blown off. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I'm not going to tell you who it is, where it is. It's not going to let you anything know. Just to give you an idea of, there's not much. There's just a little bit, but it can be pretty gross. And the interesting thing is, it's not like we haven't had extreme violence like this in other. I'm putting it away now for folks who don't want to see it. There's been extreme violence in several of them, but I'll get into more of this in the final thoughts. The violence here is so extreme, even though it's not more graphic than it's been in the past. Jen, at one point, actually stopped playing. She said, I can't play this anymore. This is too heavy. This is too mature. I'm uncomfortable. And she left me to finish the entire thing by myself because, like I said, Jen did not enjoy the mature audience content. Anyway, so one more thing I'm going to show you, the nudity. There is one card in the entire game that has nudity. Here's what it looks like. Here she is. It's a girl sunbathing. So there you go. This is pretty much PG-13. I don't even think this would get you an R in movies. You could even probably show this on broadcast TV. But anyway, that's it. On the other side of the card, obviously if you talk to her, you'll see her a little bit more up close, but that's all. I'm covering up what she actually says. So that's it. That's the entirety of the nudity, so you know what you're getting into going in. There's a little bit more violence like what I showed there. There's a fair bit of drug use. There's the tiniest bit of nudity, but Really, the mature content of this game, and I'll talk about it in the final thoughts, has to do more with the overall tone and the circumstances and what happens during this. And if you want to know a little bit more, and again, I'll avoid spoilers, but that's pretty much it. This is all I can show you without actually starting to spoil actual things. So that was a quick talk through of Estrella Drive. If you want to hear Jen's and my opinions, you heard a little bit of it so far, go ahead and hit that I in the top right corner screen to go to final thoughts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.